This is a Nikon D750, a Nikon full-frame DSLR. And on this camera, you can control shutter speed by using this rear command dial, and you can control aperture by using this front command dial. The default setting on this camera is you need to press this ISO button and then use the rear command dial to change ISO. Or you can customize this video record button to be ISO button. So when you are shooting stills, you just need to press this video record button and then use the rear command dial to change ISO. This is the controlling on a Nikon full-frame DSLR. Now let's talk about Fuji X-T2. It has a dedicated ISO dial, a dedicated shutter speed dial, and a dedicated aperture ring on the lens. Allows you to control ISO, shutter speed, aperture separately by using these analog dials. But if you are one of those people who owns a Fuji X-T2, Fuji X-H1, or a similar Fujifilm camera, but still prefer the controlling on a Nikon or Canon DSLR, you prefer using the front command dial or the rear command dial to control your camera setting. Today, this video is for you because in this video, I'm going to show you how you can customize the front command dial and the rear command dial on Fuji X-T2 to control ISO, shutter speed, and exposure compensation. Before we get started, and now you can save 10% on Capture One by using coupon code AMBCAI. Check out more information and tutorials in the description below. Now let's take a look at the Fuji X-T2 setting and how we can do this. First, you need to go to Menu and go to Setup menu and go to Button Dial Setting. And the first menu you need to touch is Command Dial Setting. And F means aperture, SS means shutter speed. I recommend to use the front command dial to control aperture and the rear command dial to control shutter speed. I think that works better than the other option. The next menu you need to change is to make sure shutter speed operation menu is on. And then go to ISO dial setting and change it to command instead of auto. That's all the settings you need to do in the menu. Now we need to change the ISO dial and the shutter speed dial. First, let's do shutter speed. First, you need to change the shutter speed dial to T, and once you do that, you should be able to see the rear command dial icon right next to shutter speed, which means now you can control your shutter speed by using this rear command dial. Now you can lock this shutter speed dial so you don't accidentally change this shutter speed dial. Then change your ISO dial to A, which means auto, but in the menu we just said we want to use command instead of auto. So set your ISO dial to auto and then you should be able to see a front command dial icon right next to ISO, which means now you can control ISO using your front command dial. If you don't see the front command dial icon next to ISO, press the front command dial and select ISO. And now you can control ISO using a front command dial. Also, you can lock ISO dial just in case you accidentally touch this dial again. Now let's take a look at how you can control exposure compensation by using the front command dial instead of this analog dial on the top. First, actually, I need to change shutter speed to auto because I'm going to control aperture and ISO. So I need to change the shutter speed to be auto in order for exposure compensation to work. Now the next step is I need to change the exposure compensation dial on the top to C, which means command. Now you can control exposure compensation by using the front command dial. At this point we can control ISO and exposure compensation by using the front command dial. Just press the front command dial and select what you want to control. If you select ISO, then you can control ISO using the front command dial. If you select exposure compensation, then you can change exposure compensation by using the front command dial. Now when you press the front command dial, you will see F, which means aperture. But if you are using a Fuji lens which has a aperture ring on the lens, then you won't be able to change aperture by using the front command dial. But if you are using a lens without a aperture ring, then you can control aperture by using this front command dial. If you like to use the front command dial and the rear command dial, now you can use them to control ISO and the shutter speed. You still need to use the aperture ring to control aperture if you are using a Fuji lens. But actually, I don't think it's a big deal because when I hold the camera like this, I already need to change focal length like this, and I can quickly switch back to this aperture ring to change aperture, and then go back to focal length, and then go back to aperture ring. So I think it's already pretty quick. You can get the aperture you want pretty quickly. And now you can use the command dials to control ISO and the shutter speed and exposure compensation. Compared to the control design on Nikon D750 or any other Nikon DSLR, actually I prefer the control design on Fuji X-T2. I know this is just my personal opinion. Many people prefer different design, prefer the Nikon D750, prefer the front command dial and the rear command dial. That's totally fine. It's just a different design. But to me, my personal opinion is Fuji X-T2 actually provides more flexibility compared to Nikon DSLR. And here is why. Because on Nikon D750, I have to work with this front command dial and the rear command dial. There's no other option. If I prefer analog dials, Nikon D750 doesn't have analog dials. There's no any other button that I can use to change aperture, shutter speed, or ISO. But Fuji X-T2, if you like these analog dials, there you have it. You have dedicated ISO dial, dedicated shutter speed dial, and an aperture ring to use if you like these analog dials. Or if you prefer the traditional DSLR, the front rear, from command dial, rear command dial control, then you still have it. You can customize the front command dial and the rear command dial on Fuji X-T2 to get a similar control to a traditional DSLR. So in that sense, I think Fuji X-T2 provides more flexibility when it comes to control. Alright guys, that's it from me today. I hope you find this video helpful. If you like this video, please click on the thumbs up button below. And if you are not subscribed already, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel for more photography tips and tutorials and Fujifilm related topics and discussions. And also don't forget you can save 10% on Capture One by using coupon code AMBCAI, and you can check out tutorials on Capture One in the description below. Alright guys, I hope you have a fantastic day, and until next time, bye for now.